If I go way back, I started my career off as a high school teacher in Hawaii, of all things. Kind of a far departure of what I do now. Moved back to California and heard a crazy rumor about an old Little League baseball coach of mine that was making $1 million a year in the insurance business. So I tracked him down, went out to his fancy office in Newport Beach, verified it was true, and I literally drove back to my little one bedroom apartment in Huntington Beach, thinking to myself, man, if he could do it, maybe I can do this. So I decided to get in the insurance business, not having any idea what that even meant. I started off building an employee benefits agency. The first week, I recruited six, I'll just call them sales reps. The second week, I trained them. I sent them home for the third week to make their list of contacts of who they're going to contact. And guess what I did in the third week?
What?
I took my licensing class to get my insurance license.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm here with Darren Sugiyama. He is in a very interesting space. He works with high net worth clients and has written a ton of books, has built agencies, has a long seasoned career in the insurance industry. And today we're going to be talking to him about what makes a top producer a top producer. He is, in fact, a top producer in his space. And so I'm excited to dive in. Darren, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, good to be here.
Cool. Well, Darren, one of my first questions I always ask is, who are you? How'd you get here? So tell us, kind of brief and brilliant, your story and how you wound up where we are today.
Sure. If I go way back, I started my career off as a high school teacher in Hawaii, of all things. Kind of a far departure of what I do now. Moved back to California and heard a crazy rumor about an old Little League baseball coach of mine that was making $1 million a year in the insurance business. So I tracked him down, went out to his fancy office in Newport Beach, verified it was true, and I literally drove back to my little one bedroom apartment in Huntington Beach, thinking to myself, man, if he could do it, maybe I can do this. So I decided to get in the insurance business, not having any idea what that even meant. I started off building an employee benefits agency. The first week, I recruited six, I'll just call them sales reps. The second week, I trained them. I sent them home for the third week to make their list of contacts of who they're going to contact. And guess what I did in the third week?
What?
I took my licensing class to get my insurance license. So
Cart before the horse. I like that. I like
I was
that.
kind of the definition of jump out of the window and build the plane on the way down.
Yeah.
The first year in the business was a little rough. I have my personal tax return framed on that table right behind me there. First year in the business, I made $277 for the entire year. So it was a little bit of a rough start. Um, but we started figuring some things out by the second year. By the fifth year, things were really started to scale. We were number one in the country with three different carriers concurrently. By my seventh year, we were really knocking the ball out of the park. And I wrote my first book called How I Built a $37 million insurance agency in less than 7 years. Um, from there, I started a secondary agency doing voluntary benefits. And I started that with my wife, who had a pretty extensive insurance career at that point as well. That business was tied to one particular carrier, Colonial Life. In the second year of that firm, we were responsible for 58% of all the business for Colonial Life in two different counties combined. And then a couple years later, started a third firm called Da Vinci Financial. We were selling life insurance completely remotely over the phone. This is long before COVID or Zoom or anything like that. And we did a lot of business. We were 1 year responsible for 38% of all of the policies sold in Orange County for Penn Mutual. Um, and then the year before that, a little over 25% of the policies sold for Pacific Life. So along the way, we started to run into higher net worth clients. Most of them were business owners. And we started taking a look at doing premium finance type of solutions for these clients. And we were trying to outsource it. And without speaking ill of any of my competitors now, I thought to myself, we can do a better job. And so I re-engineered the wheel, which everyone told me not to do. In fact, they told me to do that when I got in the employee benefits space because we did things completely differently. They told me not to do that in the voluntary benefit space. Then they told me not to do that in the life insurance space. And then they told me not to do that in the premium financing space. And every time someone has told me, don't do it that way, that's not how it's done, I feel like I'm on the right track. So I started Landsmark Capital almost 8 years ago. We're now one of the most notorious firms in the premium finance life insurance business. We take a very strong educational approach, a very conservative approach, which is kind of counter to what most of my competitors have done in this space. And it served us well. We built a reputation of being very client centric. And like I said, extremely transparent and extremely educationally based. And that's really what set us apart.
I have so many follow-up questions to that, but the one question I'm going to ask you is in like 60 seconds or less, explain what the heck premium finance is for someone who has no idea what it is.
Sure. So premium finance life insurance, in the life insurance space specifically, is when a policy gets to be a certain size and the premiums are a certain size, it will oftentimes make more sense for the client to finance the premiums. In other words, borrow the premiums from a bank and pay the bank interest as opposed to using their own cash out of pocket. So think of it, it's very analogous to say investing in real estate and using a mortgage loan, right? To be more conservative, again, you go back to that real estate analogy, the larger down payment you put down, the more conservative and more healthy the loan to value is, the LTV, right? The difference between the loan balance and the policy value. And so one of the things that really put us on the map is instead of having just one go-to loan model for every single client, we now have 7 different loan model designs. We have 19 different banks on our platform now. And so the size of premiums, the lowest premium we'll finance is 200,000. The largest premium, there's no largest premium, but we have clients that will borrow, well into the 7 figures in annual premium. We're wrapping up a case right now. A very wealthy gentleman from Mexico City, does a lot of business in Florida. His policy was 4.3 million in annual premium, just to kind of give you an idea of the scale.
So pretty small policies
Yeah,
typically.
yeah. Once you start doing the larger size cases, you start kind of almost despising the smaller cases that you started your career cutting your teeth on. But we all have to start somewhere, and I always say, never despise the days of small beginnings. Um, Sometimes, well, myself included, I guess back in the early stages of my insurance career, I'd hear these cases where people were doing, $1 million in annual premium and up. And I thought, man, those are some big policies. It almost seems out
Yeah.
of reach. And
Yeah.
now a $1 million annual premium is par for the course. That's not even a large policy as I define a large policy today.
That's cool. Okay. Second question. So kind of getting a sense of the production, but you're not working with small fish here. We're talking about big, high net worth clients, ultra wealthy. But just kind of right size the production for us. So the concept of the Big Hitters podcast is someone is doing big numbers. But explain that, I guess, to the audience in layman's terms, like overall production of you or your agency, and then like what does that mean? How can you right size that?
Yeah, I tend to be a little private when it comes to specific numbers, but I'll give you some general ideas. When I was running my employee benefits firm, we would hover right around 20 agents or so. My office rent was about 14,000 a month. I had all this administrative staff, big overhead. That firm, like I said, was doing 37 million in annual recurring premium in the benefits space, right? Life insurance space, the commission is a lot larger per premium dollar than the benefit space. Benefit space at that time was about 7 to 10%, depending on the product. Um, that that business model with all that overhead um, generated generated significantly less profit than what I'm generating now. Just me and 9 employees, all working remotely with no corporate office. So this is my corporate office, my guest house on my property. Before in the old days, the uh, the overhead was just absolutely tremendous pre-COVID, and when we all went through quarantine and we all went remote, we just never went back to a brick and mortar corporate office.
I love that. Hey, one other thing that you've done is you've written, what is it, 13 books now? So I'd love to know, like, that's insane. How are you producing that many books? And typically, like, maybe take us through your process.
Yeah. So I have 12 books in circulation now in 14 different countries outside the US. I'll be releasing my 13th book hopefully before the end of the year. It might be get pushed out till early next year, but we'll see. Um, yeah, so when I write books, it's not like I have the luxury of taking off and working out of a log cabin in the mountains for 6 months, 12 months out of the year to write my book, right? I'm writing my book between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning on the couch in my living room, kind of thing. Whenever I hear someone say I want to write a book, um, I kind of just smirk and roll my eyes inside because you have no idea how difficult it is to write a book. It is absolute torture. There's nothing pleasurable, for me at least, in the experience of writing a book. So I always say if you're going to write a book, it must be something, you must have a message that you feel obligated to share with the rest of the world, right? It can't just be, oh, I have a desire or a goal to write a book one day. You'll never get it done because it's so torturous. So the first book I wrote was called How I Built a $37 Million Insurance Agency in Less Than 7 Years. It was on the front page of Amazon for years and years and years, probably because the title was so compelling. And it was written with a very blunt candor, meaning I don't hold anything back. I don't pull any punches. Um, just very, very direct. The second book I put out was called Living Outside the Cubicle, which was a kind of a guide for the aspiring entrepreneur. And from that moment on, I just started putting out books that were either business development related, agency building development related, or just personal slash emotional slash spiritual, development. So some of these books are very, very specific to the insurance industry. Others have to do with mentorship and leadership and things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna come back to that because I'd love to pick your brain more about that. We gotta move on. So time and energy freedom, Darren, that's a big topic for me. Really meaningful, given my kind of story and breakdown. And so what does it mean to you? Time and energy freedom. And then either what have you done to achieve it, or some of the high net worth people you work with, what are they doing to achieve it?
Yeah, a lot of the time and energy freedom for me has occurred as a result of having to switch my business model around quite a bit. When I was running a pretty big agency, by the time I was running my benefits firm as well as my life insurance firm, we would hover around 108, around 100 agents or so at a given time. We would have roughly 50 to 60 under one roof in my office in Orange County. And then we had six or so satellite offices in different states with between three to six advisors at each location. And that was an insane lifestyle at the time from the standpoint of I'm up before the sun comes up, I shower, I put on the three-piece suits and the Oxfords, I drive to a high-rise building, and I'm in there till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. I go home. My son was already asleep. My wife, had dinner waiting for me, and it was just work, 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 work. When I started doing less volume and high ticket items, the space I'm in now, as opposed to just an insanely large amount of deals, small deals, but a large volume of deals. When I went to small volume of deals, larger deals, I reclaimed a lot of my time because I find myself really laser focused in the of design, art of designing the right design for a high net worth client. It's a lot more sophisticated type of design. Um, it takes more of my focused time, but less hours out of the total day in this particular business model with a lot less liability, a lot less headaches. And it fits my personality more and in the type of man I want to be now and the type of man I want to be in the future. It's just more congruent with that part of my
I
life.
love I love that. Yeah. And you've said something really I resonate with, which is keep moving up, keep prospecting up, keep writing bigger deals, bigger cases. And you said something that resonated with me when I first started my career, started my college financial planning business. I feel like I would take anything. And eventually, they just got bigger and bigger, and you kind of can say no to, some business that comes in the door. So that's amazing. Darren, another thing we like to talk about is AI, right? Obviously, it's sweeping kind of the world. How are you using it? And then where do you feel like you could be using it, but you're not?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to broaden the topic just a little bit and talk about tech as opposed to just AI, but I'll talk about AI as well. My tech stack, it's not overly sophisticated. A lot of it is Excel driven, but I have become a self-proclaimed Excel master. So the formulas and the algorithms that I built inside of Excel have been um, extremely extremely effective, but extremely efficient. And so, what used to take me, say, an hour to design a case, has now been cut in more than half. And so, that's one way of reclaiming my time using tech and algorithmic programming. On the AI side, the AI part of my business is very new. So when I say very new, I'm talking about in the last month, I've added a module to my company's website. In the bottom right hand corner, my company's website is lionsmarkcapital.com. The bottom right hand corner, you click on a little bubble and you can type in there any question that you might want to ask me that I might not either not have time to answer, or you don't want to pay my hourly fee to do consulting work and coaching work, which is $2,500 an hour with a 2 hour minimum. So if you click on that little
Am
bubble in
I,
the bottom right hand corner,
let me know if I'm going to owe you any money for our time
yeah,
here.
exactly. It's most expensive podcast you've ever done. No, but so you can type in any question you want about premium financing, about life insurance, about loans, about anything like that. And what it does, the AI scrapes all the content on my website, all of the blogs that I've written, my dozen books, scrapes all that content, and then spits back to you a very specific answer based on your very specific question. We're in the process of expanding this to a new membership driven service that I'm going to be offering. And it's going to be under the website darrensugiyama.ai. And you will literally be able to ask me any question regarding life insurance, any of those topics, but also including questions about leadership, questions about business development, questions about how I built what I built, et cetera. And it is going to be able, through AI, to answer that question back audibly in my voice with my speech patterns and voice cadence and the whole bit. It's pretty cool. It's a big undertaking, but that will be a monthly membership type of service that we'll offer.
I kind of wish AI Darren had come to this call too. I would like to talk to him as well.
Yeah, that would have saved me a lot of time. You could just ask AI Darren instead of me. Yeah, you could be out selling a $40 million life insurance policy right now. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, other side of that question, where do you feel like you could be using it, but you're not?
That's a good question. I'm not quite sure how AI will affect the art of my business right now. It certainly is in the process of affecting the kind of the Q&A, frequently asked questions, things like that. But in terms of the design, because every client is so dramatically different and there's so many variables that shape the design of the premium financing proposition, net worth, liquidity, those things are pretty quantifiable, but some of the things are a little bit more abstract, like their their emotional approach and their philosophical perspective in terms of how they feel about debt, how they feel about leverage, how they feel about risk, how they feel about all these different things. So there's definitely an emotional slash human component that plays a huge role in how I work with clients. And I don't know, maybe one day we'll have Darren Robot being able to do everything that Darren Human is able to do, and maybe even do it better. Um, well, I guess time will tell.
Yeah. Okay, last question. This is your chance to, is it plugging a new book, or is there a cause or a topic? Is there anything, Darren, that we have not talked about today that you would love to talk about?
Yeah, I don't like to quote unquote plug anything, but I think talking about what the stages of business and the stage of life that I'm in right now is without a doubt the most important thing up until the 53 years I've been on this planet. Um, those people that are close to the specific area of life insurance that I'm in, pretty much everyone knows what my wife and I have been through over this past year. Last summer in July, we lost our 14-year-old son, and it's been extremely traumatic for us. And the grief journey has been, when I say it's 1,000 times worse than what you could possibly imagine if you have not suffered the death of your child. Um, that is no exaggeration. My wife and I have both decided, based on our faith and what we feel our purpose is in life, being dealt this hand that we've been dealt, um, a lot of it is to perpetuate our son's legacy, focusing on living a life of kindness and gratitude and generosity and compassion. And one of the things we found through our grief journey is a lot of very well-intentioned people have said and done things that we have found to be so hurtful. And conversely, we've been surrounded by an incredible army of friends that have done and said just such healing and comforting things. The problem that I have discovered is that none of us have ever been formally trained on how to support a grieving loved one, right? How uncomfortable is it to be around someone like me that's in my situation? People don't know what to say, they don't know what to do, they don't want to offend me, and so oftentimes they avoid me. And there is nothing more hurtful than going radio silent on someone that you care about that's going through a extremely difficult time. So I guess my quote unquote plug is the book that I've been working on. The 13th book I'm working on is the working copy of it right now. It's called Grief Brain, How to Show Up for a Grieving Loved One. Not quite sure when the release will be, hoping before the end of the year, but likely probably first quarter of next year. And it's really like a crash course emergency guide for someone that wants to show up, that truly show up for someone that they care about that's just lost a very important person in their life. And the ripple effect that it's already having has been pretty dramatic. I've spoken at conferences around the country on this very topic, in addition to my normal course of business. Um, and it's something I think that's just really needed, not just by folks in the life insurance business, but just folks living having the human experience, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's really good. Honestly, it's a good word for me because when we talked about this before our little debrief before the call, I was like, I don't really know how to approach this subject, and so that's really helpful. I think in right sizing it, like, hey, like don't be silent, but also just like I think maybe exercise restraint in what you say because there's no way I can know. There's just no way I can know how you feel, what you experienced. That's great, man. That's a great word. I love that.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll just give you a couple of examples of this. I spoke at an event in San Antonio, Texas earlier this year about this topic, and I ran into one of the attendees at the airport, and he comes up to me, and he's got tears streaming down his face, and he can barely get it out. And he said, "Thank you so much for that presentation." He goes, "I just got off the phone with a client that just lost their child." And he didn't have the tools and what to say, or would not have had some tools or what to say unless he had been to that session. I got a text literally last week from someone that attended a different one of my talks, and he said that just the week prior, one of his close friends lost his preteen daughter in a terrible accident. And he said he was able to show up for his friend. And his friend said, and this is the real clincher here, his friend said 95% of his friends and family have not shown up for him at all. Not because they don't love him, but because he knows they do not know what to say or what to do. It's telling, right?
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, yeah, it's a good word, and I'm glad.
You
I'm
don't know
glad.
what to say now. That's how tough
No,
it is. We're on a podcast, you don't know.
genuinely
Yeah,
don't. No, but it's good. It's good. It's like we need to talk about this. I just know, Darren, when I share my story about having my business that caused me to have a mental breakdown, I needed to go to a mental health facility. When I share that with a business owner, they just like, it creates crazy rapport. And like, they're like, oh yeah, man, I was on the brink of divorce, or I was addicted to drugs. Like the business owners, like, I feel like they've done everything and anything to keep the business open and keep putting food on the plate for their employees. And I just know it's built crazy rapport. Like it instantly, it just makes me like you more when you share stuff like that with people. So I think there's a power in that vulnerability, and that transparency that creates a common ground. And it's really powerful. It leads to really cool conversations. So
Every successful business owner that I've ever met has gone broke or almost gone broke at least once, and in most cases, several times, and will
yeah,
never judge you when you talk about, the challenges that you faced in business. The only ones that will judge you harshly are the people that have never accomplished much.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Darren, if people wanted to learn more about who you are, what you're up to, or to buy a copy of your book, where could they go?
Sure. My personal site is darrensugiyama.com, DarrenSugiyama.com. And then my primary company is Lionsmark Capital. You can go to lionsmarkcapital.com.
It's awesome. Thanks for spending time with us. And then just quick plug for our businesses. So time and energy freedom is a big deal to me. I believe that between a virtual assistant and artificial intelligence, you can pretty much put anything on autopilot. We have a lot of business owners in our audience, a lot of people in real estate, financial services, you name it, coaches, consultants. And so Darren has, I think identified a target audience that has led to time and energy freedom, which is awesome. And I love that. And I'm actually going to take that, share that with my team, that we need to keep moving up and up and up with bigger deals. And so cool. Thanks for spending time with us today, Darren.
Appreciate being here.
Yeah.